When you know that you are going to be standing in front of a group of students, you have to decide what you are going to teach. If you as a teacher have to decide on the subject to be taught. If you are given a syllabus to follow, then you have to learn what the objectives are for that particular class. But before you are in front of your class, you should have some details in mind in order to produce a good lesson plan. First, you need to know the kind of students you have, the academic background they have, whether they are high school students or undergrad students, or if they are professionals. Along with this, you have to find out the group age that you have in your hands. A very important factor is also the language background they have. If possible, we could find out the type of students we have from information that previous teachers can provide you with, because this is experience from a teacher that has spent time with the class. Once you have a knowledge of the class, then it is time to move on. We need to know the kind of skills that we want our students to practice or improve, and what the organization for these activities is going to be. For instance, are we going to use group work, pair work, and how long these activities are going to take to be successfully completed? Then, we have to decide what language teacher is going to work with, and if the mentioned language is introduced, reviewed, or the teacher is doing remedial work with language taught previously, and still questions or doubts are present about that subject. Then, teacher has to decide the content that has a very good opportunity to be provoking. If teachers know the students personally, they can select appropriate content that students find appealing. In the next slide, you can see a chart found in the Practice of English Language Teaching, 3rd edition, by Jeremy Harmer, that expresses a diagram of pre-planning and the plan. The present chart shows us the development of the different stages when thinking of a lesson plan and the construction of it. Teacher has to start with the knowledge he or she has of the students. Then teacher needs to be familiar with the subject to be taught. Then the activities, language skills to be practiced, the language type, and finally the subject and contents. This will lead you, the teacher, to the practical realities, and then finally the plan. The present slide is quite literal. When we are ready to plan, then we have to decide, filter, discriminate, what to teach, when to teach it, and how to teach the subject and the activities to be used. The planning at this point has different angles to consider, and it is a teacher's job to take the right decisions in order to fulfill his or her objectives in that particular lesson. We also need to consider the length of our lesson plan according to supervision's request or the syllabus we have received. In this graph, what is attempted to express is that the lesson plan is not the beginning nor the end in a class. It is merely a vital part of the class. This normally starts with a plan, then the class, introduction, is carried out. If instruction does not have a positive outcome, then we have to review what went wrong in the planning. If something does not come out right in the assessment process, we will have to return to instruction or even the plan. And the same thing happens at the evaluation stage. If our objectives were not met, we have to go back and review what can go through modifications. In this slide, you can see some examples of lesson plan templates. As you can see, there are many different formats. They are generic. Teachers could use this as a springboard and change them according to the necessities for each particular class. Set a purpose. That is, describe the overreaching reason for this lesson. Introduce a key concept, topic, or main idea. This means get students on the right track. This step may be a note on the board, a diagram, or a probing question of the day's lesson focus. Pull students into the excitement of learning. That is, seize students' attention with items like an amazing fact, a funny quirk, a challenge, or other mind tickler. Make the learning relevant. This is, explain how this lesson extends past learning and leads to future learning. That is, the significance of the concepts, skills, and focus of the lesson. Phase number 2 is foundation. Check on previous knowledge. That is, verify what students already know. Clarify key points. Double check on learning from the past. Focus on specific standards, objectives, or goals. Link the lesson to the standards and let students know exactly what they will know and be able to do as a result of this lesson. Check for correctness and add to background knowledge. Add extra information for the day's learning and beyond, just enough to launch into the main lesson. Introduce key vocabulary. See it, say it, read it, write it. Phase number 3, that is brain activation. Ask questions to clarify ideas and to add knowledge. To do this, engage students in the learning and build background with probing questions. Brainstorm for main ideas. Fill students' heads with ideas, concepts, possibilities. Allow them to expand and clarify their thinking. Clarify and correct misconceptions. Engage students in activities that will inform you as to whether students are confused or have incorrect ideas, so corrections can be made before the misconceptions become worse or detrimental to learning. Phase number 4 is body of new information. Provide teacher input. That is, lecture, add key points and new information, read the text or articles, and solve problems. Present the body of the lesson. This may be a whole class lecture, a small group activity with teacher supervision, or a partner activity with a teacher's supervision. The learning is active, not silent reading without specific goals or mindless completion of a worksheet. Phase number 5 is clarification. Check for understanding with sample problems, situations, or questions. Have students practice with the information just taught. Guide the learning. Phase number 6, practice and review. Provide time for practice and review. Allow students time to practice under your supervision. You and the students work together. Phase number 7, independent practice. Supervise students' independent practice, that is, select additional strategies for small groups or students who still do not get it. Other students may begin to work independently, with the final goal being that all students can work on their own. This practice prepares students for successful homework and it prepares them for future learning. Phase number 8, closure. Bring the lesson to closure. That is, link the lesson phases and information together. Summarize the learning of the day and discuss how it fits into the big vision for learning. Have students demonstrate what they know and can do by writing a brief note to hand in as they leave. The note may include questions, problems, or ideas on the learning. Alternatively, they may write in their journals or explain their understanding to a partner. class description and timetable fit. Besides knowing who students are and what they expect from the class, and what is expected from them at the same time, teachers need to know the time the lesson can be fitted in within the program. Teacher has to include the time the lesson takes place, how many days a week, what they haven't practiced in previous lessons, and what the objectives are for future lessons. To start, we have to specify that your aims have to be clear, they have to be specific, and they have to keep it measurable. If you establish aims like, at the end of the class, my students should be able to use a simple present, you must have an activity that shows what students can really produce. In the main body or template of a lesson plan, teachers have to include the type or types of activities they are to use in that particular class, how the activity is going to be carried out, and the estimated time the activity is going to last. For example, a role play to practice a simple present. The students will work in pairs and the students will take 3 to 5 minutes to build a dialogue and 7 to 10 minutes to have feedback, either form feedback or content feedback. Jeremy Harmer states that since we may have to modify our lesson plans according to our students' reactions and attitudes, it is necessary to keep a record of the lesson plans we have used in the past, specifically the activities that offered a good outcome, that left the students with a sense of achievement. They could also be helpful when colleagues ask us what suggestions we have for a given class. Our original lesson plans will have to be modified according to the variables we have in the class we are teaching at that particular moment. The teacher has to decide what activities to recycle and what approaches to use. We insist according to the group of students we are working with in that particular moment. To conclude, it is mandatory for teachers to have a lesson plan. This can be a very long and complete one, or a short one. Or even the teacher can go over the material and have a lesson plan in mind. Of course, according to teachers' experience and institution requirements. Whatever the case is, use the format, template, or length you consider necessary. In the end, your class is what's going to guide you into this hard choice. Thank you, and best of luck.